Hi, Lazy-Eyed Modeler here. How are you this weekend? I hope you're having a good one. It's Sunday night, so I guess it's almost over, but I want to do an update. It's been a couple of weeks, and I also want to respond to the question by Louis Matarazzo. I hope I said that right. So, without further ado, item number 1, NNL East, baby. Booked my room this weekend, so I'm really pumped. It's a great show every year. A group of us from here in Ontario, Canada, usually head down with yours truly as the driver, and we spend about 6-7 hours getting down from Toronto to New Jersey, and that's on top of the 2 hours it takes me to get to Toronto in the first place to pick up the rest of the ragtag bunch. So I'm stoked. This is sort of become an annual tradition, and it's a good, well, ends up being 3 days away. Friday for traveling to New Jersey, Saturday for the show itself, and then Sunday for the drive back. And I traditionally take an extra day on the Monday just to recuperate, because I'd be probably at work just drooling from fatigue, and that would not be a good thing. So anywho, for me that's great news, and I heard from my usual New Jersey roommate that he's stoked and ready to go too, and some of the other guys are starting to chime in, so a couple months and away we go. And like I said, really looking forward to that. So that's part 1 of the update. Part 2 of the update, I'm not going to show it a bit, but I have been slowly picking away at the Zombie Hunter, and I've done a bit of a mock-up, and I've got it apart again to try to readjust and see how the main gun's going to mount. It wasn't quite right the first time, so I'm not sure what I'll have to do to fix that, but we'll keep poking away at it. Dr. Cranky, I don't know if I'll ever meet the deadline on this, but it's, pardon me, a fun project, and we'll see where we end up with it. Okay, so to move along, I want to address the question that Louis Matarazzo posted or asked, kind of who are you, and a bit of our history, and mainly when do we find time to build. So here goes. It all started at a 3,000 watt radio station. Oh wait, that's Ted Baxter, that's not me. Okay, take 2. No, seriously, I'm a car modeler basically, and I've been a car nut since day one, it seems, from what I hear from my parents and my relatives. It got to the point, even at a young age, like 5 years old, I knew where everyone was, because I'd spot their car on the street or wherever else. And my aunt still tells the story of getting a phone call from my mom and saying, were you parked near the Legion today at around 12 o'clock? And my aunt said, yes, why? She said, well, that little bugger, he knew where you were just because your car was parked there. And I didn't believe him that he knew that was your car. So I've kind of always been into cars, and you know, started with, like many of us around my age, I'm 55 now, as I mentioned in the birthday video. We started with Dinky Toys and Matchbox toys, that type of thing, and it was kind of a natural progression to get into models. And for me, it was even more of a natural progression, because my father and my uncle together owned a hardware store that was founded by my grandfather, and part of the hardware store, almost half of it, was a toy store, one of the biggest toy stores for 30 miles or further at the time. And this is, you know, I was born in '59, so this was late 50s and through most of the 60s. And a big part of that toy store was a large model section. And so it was pretty natural that my dad started bringing home models, and I would go to the store with him and see models, you know, the cars. My dad was more of a plane guy. He was more interested in that type of thing. I think he was a little frustrated that those really didn't interest me, that it was cars that interested me the most, but it was what it was. And so I started building car models. Made 2 or 3 attempts at planes, but just didn't like them. Didn't seem to go together logically, and just didn't work for me. But I could get car models together, and since I was a car guy, so to speak, that's just how it went. So you know, all through my teens, I never really gave up car modeling or modeling. Obviously, when you're getting more interested in real cars and members of the opposite sex and whatnot, you're not as concentrating on building models. But in my mind anyway, I never really gave up models. I still had all my models. Some of them, of course, like there again, most of us all did, ended up destroyed. I never stuck fireworks in them, but I do remember playing wreck-em derbies with my friends, where you just, you know, with your hands go bang, 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 and parts would fly, and that was great fun. So a lot of them ended up destroyed that way. But I still kept kits that I had sitting there. And once we were married, they kind of came here to this house that we bought just before we were married. They immigrated from my parents' house here to this house. And as far as I was concerned, I never stopped building models, even though maybe I wasn't actively building models at the time. So that's kind of how I got into it. And later on, once we moved here, I was still wanting to build models. And I remember going to a store and looking at the magazine rack, and I found a magazine by Scale Modeler. I think that's the name of it. I have it here someplace, and sometime I will feature it in a video. But anyway, this issue was dedicated to car modeling solely. There was the car model edition of Scale Modeler. So I picked it up, and I thought that was great. This is great. My wife was looking at me like, you some kind of lunatic, because I was so excited about finding this magazine. And in this magazine, there was an ad for Scale Auto Enthusiast, which was going to be a regular magazine as opposed to this one that I just picked up, which was a special edition of another magazine. So in very short order, I subscribed to Scale Auto. And keep in mind, this was 1983, and boy, when I got that first issue, was I excited. And my wife realized she was in more trouble than she'd realized. So it kind of went on from there, and you know, I kept subscribing to Scale Auto, and I puttered around a bit. And every year in Toronto there was a show called the Hobby Show, and it would feature all kinds of hobbies, you know, marquetry, you know, inlaid wood things, sewing, almost every kind of hobby. And at that time, it was a big show. And every year at this show was a modeling club called Group 25. They were solely car modelers, and they were excellent car modelers. The work they put on the tables was incredible, and every year I just kind of looked and drooled, and pardon me, I talked to them a couple of times, and well, no, we're only limited to 25 members. So there wasn't much chance to get involved with them. But every year I kept going to the hobby show, and finally I was talking to them, oh yeah, we'd be happy to have new members. I guess they decided to expand their boundaries a bit and whatnot. So in 1992, I joined Group 25 and became a club member, which was greatly exciting for me because I was so impressed by this group. By this time, I must admit, I was married for about 9 years, because we were married in '83. We have no kids, and so I mean, it sounds callous, I suppose. I would have loved to have had children, but we didn't. And so some of the money that you would have used raising for a child kind of allowed me to travel to Toronto, because it's about 100 miles from here, but it allowed me to travel to Toronto to be with like-minded people that liked my hobby. And pausing here briefly, I realized I didn't even start at the beginning. I should have introduced myself and given a part of my history, so we'll pause here and I'll do that. My name's Peter McDonald. There's another YouTube channel that I started because I didn't realize you could have a name other than your name. So it's, if you see PJ McDonald on YouTube, that's actually me, the Lazy-Eyed Modeler. I just wanted to go by something that was model related, and that's how we ended up with the Lazy-Eyed Modeler. I am 55. I've been married now. It was 30 years in 2013 to a lovely, understanding person. I live, as it came up in a few minutes ago, in Ontario, in southern end of Georgian Bay, which is why we're buried up to our necks in snow, and why you keep every video hearing me whining about snow and cold. So I've worked at the same place since 1981. I was a nurse for 14 years, and I've been a driver with the same organization now. I'll be 19 years in 2014. So I've been there 33 years. And things are changing where I work. Unfortunately, maybe not for the best, but I'm not going to say any more about that, because we know that employers can run across YouTube videos and Facebook and all that type of thing, so I don't want to complain anymore. I've just been lucky to have a job for 33 years, and with the pension plan and everything else in place, hopefully in another 2 years, 9 months, I'll be retired, and we'll go from there. So that's a little bit about me in the middle of my modeling discussion. So, veering back to the modeling discussion, once I became a member of Group 25, certainly enjoyed going with the guys every year, and we did do the hobby show every year, which was a 3-day event, and like a lunatic I drove back and forth Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every day of the hobby show to be there. It was always a good time. We had a whale of a time with each other, clowning around and embarrassing ourselves and others, but at the same time educating people about model building, especially car modeling. There was also an IPMS group there that kind of covered everything else. So I was with Group 25 for quite a few years. Every year they would have, I guess you would call it build the same kit build. For quite a few years they would buy X number of whatever kit we decided on, and you had to have it done by the hobby show. So actually that ended up being my most prolific building period, is trying to get these builds done for the hobby show. And some of the pictures that you saw, if you watch my video about models from 1970 till 2001 or whatever it was, many of those are the group builds from Group 25. Unfortunately, during the time with Group 25, we had a contest, or we helped with a contest, and then we started doing one ourselves. And of course it's kind of like every hand on deck, and so I had to learn judging. So it started sort of as a junior person with some of the senior guys, learning about judging, all that, and it was, there again, it was always an enjoyable experience. But it's, you know, you can say what you want about contests, but those guys that are judging, they're sweating too. You might be sweating because you're wondering how you're going to place and all that, but those guys In all the years that I helped judge with them, they were in there sweating, trying to do the best job they could while examining the models and examining the build quality and all that type of thing. And part of that was then you have to become critical to a certain extent. I mean, it's a contest. You're trying to judge the best ones there and all that type of thing, so you're looking for paint flaws, gluing flaws, everything that goes along with that. And in a sense, and I'm not totally blaming it on this, but in a sense it kind of spoiled the hobby a bit for me, because now when I'm trying to build, I'm always trying to look at it like it's being judged, and it kind of takes the fun out of it, because of being a lazy-eyed modeler, and that means my eyesight's not the best. I can't tell when I'm doing things straight or flat or whatever. And so whenever I'm now working on a model and I'm trying to file stuff or sand stuff or whatever, and I tend to mess it up a bit, it's kind of like, I've screwed that up, and it goes back in the box. And I've got, I don't know how many models around here that, you know, they aren't that bad, but I've talked myself out of doing any more with them because I'm not happy that I've sanded something